It's no fun when our kids are sick, but we may just have found the silver lining. Apple and raspberry and orange flavoured electrolyte slushies made by Rehydrate.
Rehydrate slushies are a tasty way to get essential electrolytes into our little ones when they're dehydrated from sickness or even just the Aussie heat. They're delicious and they'll help your little ones feel better in no time. Grab Rehydrate from Coles today.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I used to put far too much pressure on myself to think I had to have all of that together, and the only person I was letting down was myself.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson, the author of 6 books about raising happy families, and I'm here with my wife and co-host, Mrs. Happy Families, Kylie, the mum to our 6 daughters. Today, special guest, Kylie.
We're here with Jessica Rowe today. I bet it feels awesome to have the kids all at school.
Yay! I'm so relieved.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Oh, it's the best. I'm sure I'm not the only one. When the holidays, they were great. It was lovely to have downtime, but they were long. They were a long holiday. And
I think when it backs onto the year we had, they really did feel long, didn't they?
Well, it did. And I think as well, because for a lot of people, it was still disruptive, the break. You know, there was still with various Christmas plans. New Year's
borders
Eve
opening
plans.
and closing, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That uncertainty kept sort of rolling on. So, yay.
Yay. Well, I'm sitting there right with you on that couch. I am definitely grateful that the kids are back at school. On Instagram, Jess, you're known as the self-proclaimed crap housewife. I can't even say that. Like, it doesn't roll off my tongue very well.
It doesn't roll off your tongue because you're not like that. You're not, Jess. I mean, I'm not making any comparisons, but Kylie would feel a little uncomfortable if somebody walked into the house and said, "You must be a crap housewife." Just don't know if she's going to respond well to that.
Well, you know what? We do what works for us, and I have embraced being a crap housewife, Kylie. I have piles of washing. I've got dirty dishes in the sink. I'm not a great cook. I used to put far too much pressure on myself to think I had to have all of that together. And the only person I was letting down was myself. I'd get myself in such a lather. And so now I go, you know what? I'm enough. It doesn't matter that I'm not good at this stuff because I can be good at other things. But I think the key is you do what works for you and your family.
I just love it. This week, it seems that you have made national headlines for exactly that.
Well, actually, it wasn't Jess making national headlines. Let's be clear here. This was Jess's daughter's Lunchbox from 2020 that made national headlines.
So can you tell us all, why was your daughter's Lunchbox making national headlines this week?
Well, first of all, how hilarious that the Lunchbox made national headlines. Essentially what happened, we're getting ready for back to school. I mean, I'm doing star jumps this morning because both my girls are back at school now. But we're getting ready just the other day, and I thought, okay, time to, get the school bag ready, get the lunchboxes ready. Lo and behold, in my youngest daughter's lunchbox was the lunch that we hadn't unpacked from last December. Oh, no. And you think we would have smelt it, but no, because it was in this cupboard under the stairs with a whole lot of other junk. So that was obviously sealing the smell in there. But I unzipped it and, oh, my goodness, the smell, the stench. In one Tupperware was just this green liquid, and I'm not sure what it was. I think potentially it might have been some cucumbers that liquefied. And then in the other container, which is my daughter's favourite because it has seals on the front, I undid it and there were these, I think they might have been once grapes, and they were black and furry and just foul. So I just had to laugh because I just thought, I cannot believe this. And I posted it to my Instagram, and lo and behold, what I loved is that hundreds of other mums and dads responded with their foul lunchbox stories, with similar things happening to them, feeling reassured that, oh my goodness, we're not the only ones. Others sharing stories about how they'd had cheese and bacon rolls in their kids' lunchboxes and they opened them and suddenly they thought they were tennis balls.
Oh, that's disgusting.
So I think the thing is we've all been there. I mean, I'm sure for you guys too, perhaps when you were younger, like I remember putting my hand in my school bag when I was probably about Giselle's age, which is 11, and there was this powdery substance in the bottom and it was an orange. It was a whole orange that had basically over the time it just powdered into this foul thing. So
yeah, I do definitely remember the orange days.
They all get all kind of blur. And I think the thing is what I love about Insta, because we hear negative things about social media, but what I love was hearing all these other people's stories. We can laugh at ourselves. We can think we are doing our best. And if you have that stenchy lunchbox every now and then, that's okay because, you know, today my daughters got off to school with new lunchboxes with food that wasn't mouldy in the lunchboxes. So that's a win.
I'm just thinking about the detoxifying properties of 5 or 6 week old cucumber juice.
There's no detoxifying process. They just go in the bin, don't they, Jess?
They did. They all went in the bin. I had to say to my daughter, I know that this is your favourite container with the seals on the lid, but I'm sorry, darling.
We're not cleaning that
gone.
That's
it's
terrible.
safer to bin it.
Hey, so I've got a serious question for you, Jess. Self-proclaimed crap housewife. You make no secret whatsoever that you're not much of a cook. You do what you do and you're okay with that. And we celebrate and love you for it. But what I would love to know is, as somebody who isn't into putting in a deep, wholehearted MasterChef effort, when it comes to your children's lunchboxes, how do you create something to go in the lunchbox that they'll actually eat and not throw in the bin or bring? Oh, well, maybe you don't. Maybe that's why you've got 5-week-old cucumber there.
That's right. You see, if someone had the answer to that, Justin, I would love to know. I'm open to any tips, any hints, any suggestions because like so many of us, you want to pack healthy food that they're going to eat you won't put all this sort of time into it and then they're unopened at the end. I mean, I always start with good intentions. So I made both of my daughters' lunches this morning, but often we'll do a bit of a lunch order as well. Sometimes that's pretty good at the school canteen.
You can't go wrong when you're spending money on someone else's food, right?
That's right. So no, I have no qualms with doing that, but I honestly wish I had the answer. You know what? I try and keep it simple. I'll put a treat in there as well. Of course, the treats always get eaten first.
They do, yeah.
An apple. I did get a little excited about new containers. So I found these containers that had like a little section for dip and another little section that you could put carrots in and cucumber. So I'm hoping that the new containers might inspire my daughters to eat the carrot and cucumber.
The food's that much more attractive because it's in a container that's attractive, right?
Exactly. And that they can dip it in the little, they can dip the hummus in it. So I honestly, I'm open to plenty of suggestions because, and you know what, keep it simple. They're not going to, they won't starve. I mean, if there's food in there, they're going to eat it eventually.
I thought you were going to say, keep it simple, they're not going to eat it anyway. That's what you were going to say.
Well, I reckon, Jess, if you carry on listening, you're going to find out that we've got some tips that just might help you as well as everybody else with this whole lunchbox dilemma.
I am listening. I need all the help I can get, Kylie.
We'll do that right after the break.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
You've made some big promises to Jessica Rowe. That was such a fun conversation. I truly cannot believe that it was one of the biggest news stories over the last week. Like, seriously.
It is a little bit sad that a lunchbox is what makes national news these days.
It's better than reading about Donald Trump. So what are your hacks? Because you've made this big promise. Jessica's got to get these tips so that she can actually get her kids to eat lunch. What do you reckon we can do about this? Oh, by the way, I have to mention something that has worked for one of our fussy kids is that I just love this. I don't know where you got the idea. You've made toasted sandwiches in the morning, let them cool off, put them in the lunchbox, and the kids are eating toasted cold sandwiches. What's with that?
there wasn't even a crust left in the lunchbox. That was what was really exciting. I don't know what it is, but they love toasted sandwiches, and I thought I'll just give it a go
so disgusting.
because they won't eat sandwiches.
And they're eating them cold. They're eating toasted sandwiches 4 hours later, cold. So that's our number one hack. I mean, just try it. You never know. What else have you got?
Look, I was really just thinking around the whole dilemma that Jess had. So it wasn't necessarily about what goes in the lunchbox as much as how can we make sure that doesn't happen at the other end. And these days, schools are actually putting a lot of parameters around parents on what
can and can't go to school, and also you've got to make sure that you bring all the rubbish home and all that sort of stuff.
So I was thinking more along those lines. And one of the big dilemmas for parents these days is that a lot of schools are saying they don't want disposable plastic wraps coming to school, and if they do, they have to come home.
Yeah, like your cling wrap sort of stuff.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've done this year, which has been brilliant, my sister actually brought them for me for Christmas, is those reusable Ziploc bags. They're brilliant. So they've got beautiful little patterns on them and the kids know they're theirs. Stick the treats and then they come home and get washed. So that's been awesome.
There is still a risk, though, that a cucumber left in one of those for 5 weeks could still turn into some kind of fetid reduced juice of some kind.
So my tip for Jess on that one is maybe check the lunch bag at the end of the day.
or at least at the end of the term. Don't wait for the whole summer holiday to go on. What else have we got?
There's beeswax wraps these days.
Yep.
My favourite is just, your generic container with the label. That is working for me. And the reason it's working for me is I can put a piece of fruit in there and it doesn't get squashed because everyone's had a squashed banana at some point.
Yeah. So we've actually started using containers for pretty much everything. The fruit goes into a container. The sandwich goes in, not wrapped. It just goes into a sandwich-sized container with the lid on it. Keeps it fresh enough, especially once it's a toasted sandwich and it doesn't have to be kept quite so fresh. So the containers are a really great hack for keeping lunchboxes clean, not having too much excess rubbish. That's a really nice way to move forward with that.
Keeping things cool, that's really tricky at times too.
Yeah.
And people think that you could buy these, insulated lunch boxes and you stick everything in and it will keep it cool. What you have to realise is whatever temperature you put the food into that insulated box is what it's going to stay at.
Yeah, so the kids the other day did something so funny. They filled up their water bottles the night before, stuck them in the fridge. We've got the insulated water bottles. They've put the lids on, stuck them in the fridge, and they've pulled them out the next day. And they're the same temperature.
Well,
the bottle's cold.
The bottle got cold.
But the water's the same temperature as when it came out of the tap because the insulation kept the temperature the same. So it's got to go in cold and then it'll stay cold. That's the tip with the insulated stuff.
That's right. So, using those ice bricks is helpful, but freeze your poppers. Some kids really enjoy having frozen grapes and you can freeze your muffins. One of the things that our friends used to do, which I actually thought was brilliant, I've never done it, but they would buy a fresh loaf of bread. They would make 10 or 12 Vegemite sandwiches right on the spot. And then they would stick it in the freezer and the kids would literally just pull out a frozen sandwich each day. And at the time, it sounded awful. Like I couldn't get my head around a frozen sandwich. But when you eat a sandwich that has just defrosted on fresh bread, it's literally like a fresh sandwich. You don't have that, when the spread kind of gets manky and it kind of just absorbs into the bread.
Yeah, so the bread sort of defrosts through the day and the kids are having a fairly fresh sandwich. So let me do a quick summary because our time is running out. We want to make sure that we're using containers, we're not sending a whole lot of rubbish to school. In terms of food, you're suggesting freezing the food, keeping the food cold because it feels and tastes fresher. You've suggested things like frozen grapes. You could do the same with frozen oranges. Kids really love...
And in our heat, it's awesome, right? You get something...
In an Australian summer, this is a really nice way to go. What other tips, hints, hacks, and so on have you got for making lunchboxes work in terms of keeping everything fresh and getting the kids to eat it?
So I guess the big thing with getting kids to eat it is getting them involved in the process. So at the beginning of the school year, we sit down with the kids. I say, all right, well, you got sick of the lunches we did last year. What are we going to do this year to just kind of improve what we're doing? And they'll go through the recipe book. They'll find a few different recipes. Might be an apple muffin this year that they're willing to try. And I give it a go.
So it's just about experimentation, and it sounds like it's actually about intention as well. You're saying make the effort. If you make the effort, it'll work. I mean, the kids go off sandwiches, and so you start doing wraps. They go off wraps, so you start doing toasted sandwiches.
Well, I think variety is what's going to help the process. If you have a Vegemite sandwich every day for a term or a year,
it's gross.
It gets really boring.
The other thing that our children love is leftovers. I mean, I love leftovers too, but I'm sacrificing leftovers. They take the leftovers to school and I know that they're going to have a good lunch. So, if you have lasagna the night before, stick it in a container, give them a plastic spoon or fork, and they are in heaven. They think it's fantastic, even if it's cold.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. And Jess, I'm hoping that you're not going to find any green liquid in your lunchbox at the end of the year.
It's such a gross story. I still can't believe it made national news headlines, but I can imagine the 60-minute expose, a current affair sneaking into Jessica Rowe's house to check out the kids' lunchboxes at the end of next summer. This is a very crap housewife here. So much fun. If you've enjoyed our podcast, by the way, please tell other people about it. Just shoot it through to a friend or jump onto Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. That's how people find out about the podcast, and we get to make other people's families happier, or at least help you to get your kids to eat their lunch. Our podcast producer is Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. We also appreciate our executive producer, Craig Bruce, for giving us loads of ideas about how we can help make families happier. By the way, if you would like to make your family happier, all you need to do is jump onto happyfamilies.com.au, find out about our amazing Happy Families memberships. The family is getting bigger and bigger every day as more people jump on board and find out how to make their families happier. All the details at happyfamilies.com.au.